Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. Guys, we are heading into the Eastern Conference matchups today, as our first one is an interesting one in the Northeast. The Pittsburgh Penguins and the Pittsburgh Penguins and the New York Rangers. Guys, this is a matchup between the second-seeded New York Rangers. They will have home ice advantage in this series against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the third seed in the Metropolitan Division. They hung on by a thread there at the end of the regular season to get there, but they did indeed get there. Guys, the Pittsburgh Penguins, guys, we know what this team is all about, but there's been some controversy for the Penguins as they haven't really had much success since their last Stanley Cup. 2017 is the last time the Pittsburgh Penguins won a Stanley Cup playoff series. And you know what that series was? That's right. The last series they won was the Stanley Cup final against the San Jose Sharks in 2017. So it's been a little bit of time here for them, and they've struggled against the Islanders, the Capitals, and this year it could be their next kryptonite, the New York Rangers. So let's get into this matchup, guys. This is going to be a really, really good matchup. So the head-to-head is in favor of the Rangers, the favorite here in this series. They won 3 of their 4 games against Pittsburgh. Looking at their goals for, goals against, really it's going to come down to the Penguins' ability to score goals, 11th best in the NHL, and the New York Rangers' second goals against in the NHL. They're second in the NHL in that category, just under 2.5 goals given up per game. Now, both these teams are very good defensively, both top 5. Like I said, the Rangers are second in the NHL for goals against. Pittsburgh's not far behind, though, 5th in the NHL for their goals against. So very defensively minded teams, but they can both score some goals. You look at the Rangers' power play, 4th best power play in the NHL. Not many teams ahead of them in that category. I think it's Toronto, Florida, and Edmonton. Those are some pretty highly touted offensive teams. So the Rangers, a lot of that has been on the back of Chris Kreider, Mr. Ranger, winning the McDonald Award as well. It's been a great season for Chris Kreider and the New York Rangers in that regard. Penalty kill, though, 3rd best in the NHL here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Nobody's really talking much about that, but they've been very good defensively, considering guys like Chris Letang, who have had some pretty miserable games at points with some bad turnovers. One of their top defensemen in Chris Letang. Their structure overall, Mike Sullivan's team here, they're going to look to make some noise by having less Ranger goal horns in this series. That's going to be really the point of this. They really need to shut down the Rangers' offense, and we'll get to that here in a second. So looking at the Rangers here individually, Igor Shesterkin has had an incredible season. If there's a goalie that could win the Hart Trophy this year, it's going to be Igor Shesterkin. He's definitely going to be a finalist for the Vezina Trophy. He's been incredible for them this year. His numbers he's had, he did have that little stretch, I think it was, March? He did have that little stretch, April into March. He struggled a little bit, but since then, he's been unstoppable. So no real debate here. It's going to be Shesterkin, especially with the way Georgiev ended the season against Montreal. Not his best performance. But he as well had a 7-game winning streak before that game against the Canadiens, but he didn't really look good. So it's going to be Shesterkin's net. I don't think there's going to be much debate there. Dominating the season series, like I said, the Rangers, 3 wins of those 4 matchups. That's in favor of the Rangers, I would say, for the most part. Their defensive structure is extremely good, and I think under Gerard Gallant, they've gotten a little bit more difficult to play against, which is exactly what the ownership wanted there in New York. And, their mantra, no quit in New York, the Rangers are that kind of team. Their power play has been incredible, like I said, 4th best in the National Hockey League. So the Rangers have some things going their way going into this series. And not to mention, if this does come down to a Game 7, it will be hosted in Manhattan in the Big Apple at MSG. And I truly believe that is what this series will come down to. So that's my spoiler before we get to my predictions. For the Pittsburgh Penguins, guys, this is the fun part of this series. I really like this series because of how the regular season matchup between these two ended. Now, if you guys don't remember, I think it was last month, the Rangers hosted the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins were getting spanked, absolutely spanked those last 2 games in Pittsburgh and against the Rangers in New York. I think they played each other in a week span in Pittsburgh and then at the Garden. And the Rangers kind of whooped them. I mean, they definitely put the Penguins in their place. And the only problem with that, though, is in that final game at the Garden, at the end of the game, there was a little scuffle here and there at the end. Malkin very pissed off that his team really didn't execute. They embarrassed themselves at home and on the road against the Rangers and the Blue Shirts. So on the way out, right, there's a little bit of a scuffle at center ice between the Penguins and Rangers. The Penguins start going off the ice, right? They go off to the Zamboni exit. And Igor Shesterkin waves his glove. He's giving a little, glove wave to the Penguins, and specifically Malkin on the way off the ice. Now, here's the problem. You just gave fuel to Malkin, Crosby, Letang, Gensel, right? That could prove to be a problem. The Penguins. The Penguins have been festering on that and just grinding their teeth and probably just drooling over the thought of playing the Rangers in this first round. I think this is going to be an ugly, ugly series. And I think it's going to get really, really interesting as the series progresses. So, here's that. So that's the first point. So damn well in game one at MSG, in that road locker room, they might even have a mural or a portrait of Shesterkin waving his glove at Big Gino Malkin. That is bulletin board material if there ever is any. It just, again, it's igniting that rivalry that we haven't seen for a couple years. I mean, the Rangers have missed the postseason 3 straight seasons. This is their first year back. The Garden's going to be rocking. I'm getting goosebumps. Like, this is going to be an incredible series. And I'm happy as an Islander fan because at least one of these teams won't get past the first round. So that's a win for me. Another thing to look at here, had Sidney Crosby played the full 82-game schedule, he was injured for a little bit, I think he'd lead the NHL in points. I mean, he has been so good in terms of scoring and his production overall. Crosby has been, secretly one of the best players in the NHL. And again, this is another guy, he gets left off the Hart Trophy ballot. I think he's gonna get robbed. I think it's one of those things here for Crosby. Had he played the full 82 games, had he put up those points, I think it would have been a no-brainer that Crosby would have had that kind of year. The other thing here, alongside with Crosby, the two-headed monster here, the other part of that is Malkin. Malkin's going to be pissed off. He definitely remembers what happened there with Shesterkin at the end of that series. Malkin had that little incident with Mark Borowiecki. He got suspended for a couple games. He needs to keep his freaking cool. Malkin's one of those guys that the Rangers are going to go after. I'm already seeing it now. Number 21 on the Rangers, Barclay Goodrow, kind of giving a shove to Malkin in front of the net, and Malkin gets a penalty because he slashes him back or retaliates. I mean, it's going to be one of those things. They're going to go after Malkin. The Islanders went after Malkin, and they were able to get some power plays because he was being an idiot. Same thing for Letang. The key for the Penguins is to keep their freaking cool. Keep their poise. I know that's a problem for them. I know Malkin, I've heard things where Malkin will get 5 assists in a game, and he smashes his stick and is cursing out the locker room because he didn't score a goal. It's one of those things. Malkin's a super, super competitive guy, but he needs to keep his cool there. It's going to come down to inches in this series. It's literally a hair thread between these two teams. And if you're taking stupid penalties and giving that Rangers power play, which has been so good, power plays, you're going to have problems. You're giving momentum to the Rangers. That's going to be incredible here. They got to be in the right mental headspace. But the Penguins do have a great penalty kill. Like I said, third best penalty kill in the NHL versus the 4th best New York Rangers power play. That's going to be a really interesting matchup in this series. And hopefully for the Penguins, we don't have to see a ton of Rangers power plays. But it's going to come down to those guys like Crosby and Malkin and Letang not taking those stupid retaliation penalties. That's been a problem for them for the past couple of seasons. So, with that said, I have to keep these 2 ugly jerseys next to my pretty face. We have the Blue Shirts and the Penguins. Am I going to go with the patriotic Rangers here, the red, white, and blue? Or do I go with the Steel City, the blue-collar Pittsburgh Penguins. Overall, the matchup between these two teams, especially in the 2010s, was a heated rivalry, and these teams meet up a lot in the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Penguins, man, they have Malkin, they have Crosby, they have a pissed-off group, very good defensively, but can it beat the Rangers' offensive prowess and their defensive structure under Gerard Gallant? It's going to be an interesting debate. Unfortunately, though, I think the headspace of the Pittsburgh Penguins, the lack of control over the last couple years from guys like specifically Malkin and Letang, I think the Rangers will get in the head of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And ultimately, this comes down to a Game 7 at Madison Square Garden. Guys, you know damn well I'm not putting on this ugly jersey, and I hate that it has to be next to me right now because it should be an Islanders jersey. But give credit where it's due. The Rangers have had an incredible season this year. I do think the Rangers do win this series in 7 games. I think they win it at home at MSG, and I think they're on a run this year. I don't know how far they'll get. I mean, it depends on, if they get to the second round, who they play and stuff like that, because it's going to be difficult. But I think the Rangers have something this year. I mean, I saw them play the Islanders at UBS, and it was really tough to watch as an Islander fan. But the Rangers just have some kind of team here this year. As long as Panarin, as long as Kopp, as long as Zibanejad are healthy, I don't see anybody stopping this Rangers team. At least the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round. They get the matchup they wanted. I think they will take this home. They will win their first playoff series since 2017. 2016? It was 2016. Whatever it was. I think it was 2016. I think the Rangers get it done here. And, so the Rangers in 7 games, Shesterkin will carry them. I think he'll be able to beat Tristan Jarry. So, guys, that is it for today's video. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. The matchup between these former Patrick Division, Metropolitan Division matchup between the New York Rangers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let me know who wins this series. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.